love me, and I love you.
Content warning. The stories and themes shared throughout this podcast may contain themes that can be distressing for you. If needed, please pause and do what you need to do to take care of yourself. If needed, please reach out to a mental health professional for support.
Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Resilient AF with Blair and Alana. But instead of Alana today, we have Alyssa Chavez. Did I do it right?
Close, Chavez.
Chavez. I am so excited to talk to her. We've only met on the internet, but when I read her bio, I knew we had to have this conversation. And if you've been following my podcast for a while, you'll know exactly why. Alyssa is an endo and infertility warrior turned functional nutritionist and life coach. She helps women who are struggling with gut and hormonal issues to get to the root of their symptoms once and for all. Alyssa takes a whole person approach, supporting the physical body as well as the mental and emotional body to help women move forward, bring themselves back to alignment, and truly thrive through life again. And her work, I'm assuming, and maybe you can correct me, was sparked by going through an infertility journey of her own. She had an 8-year infertility journey complete with IVF miscarriage, dealing with friends and family grow their families, and pregnancy after miscarriage. And that story is devastating and heartbreaking and unfortunately all too familiar. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me today, Blair. I am thrilled to be a part of it.
So I just like you don't really know much about me, but I am in a similar world as you in the sense of infertility. Shane and I, my husband and I, do not have kids. We struggled with fertility and we couldn't get pregnant. We were going for tests. The pandemic happened. We were told that I needed further testing, but it was the pandemic, so they weren't really doing that. And so we decided to stop trying, and then we got pregnant and we miscarried. And I was so excited because I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think I can get pregnant. No one talks about how hard it is to stay pregnant.
Yeah.
And, but then shortly after we lost his dad, my mom and my dad, so we decided to not have kids. But definitely was walking along this path of infertility, and it's fucking hard.
It is. Agreed. Amen to that.
Oh my God. So Alyssa, like share your story with us. 8
Yeah.
years, that's a long time. Like
Yeah.
let's dive into your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my husband and I got married back in 2017. And by that point in time, we'd been together for a while. We were ready to just dive in and start our family. And, us being just starting fresh on the journey, just thought like it would just be this easy thing and we would just get pregnant one day and have a family and everything would be great. But of course, that's not quite how our journey went. So I had come off of birth control the year prior to us getting married, just kind of in preparation. And at that point in time, honestly, my body kind of started to fall apart, which I know is super common as well. I had been on birth control for about 7 years. And when I had pulled the plug on that, my period started to become very intense very quickly. I was in immense amount of pain when I was on my period. I'm talking completely debilitating, couldn't walk or move or stand up, much less go to work or be a functional human being in the world, which was a challenge in and of itself, of course. So I knew something was going on. I knew this couldn't be just within the realm of normal period cramps. So I started to go see doctors and was kind of just told, well, it's just normal to have painful periods. If you really want to do something about it, here's some birth control. And I was like, well, I just stopped that. And also, doesn't really help me towards my fertility goals so much. So we just kind of kept trucking along and doing our thing. But by the time about 3 years had gone by, which coincidentally also was right up against the pandemic for us as well, it was January of 2020 when we started IVF. So it was before we knew it was coming for us, but definitely
Yeah.
in that same time frame. And yeah, we were told, so in the lead up to that, we'd gone to see a fertility specialist, and at least I finally got a diagnosis at that point in time because, did
Yeah.
all of the testing, all of the things. So I was told I had endometriosis, which basically at that point in time I was kind of told is a life sentence of pain and frustration. And the only ways to manage it is through medication and surgeries and all the things. And I was in my late 20s at the time going, well, shoot, this is, or I think I was maybe 30 at that point in time when we went in to do IVF, and was just told that that was our only option. That, hey, if you want to have a family, you're going to have to do IVF, and you should probably do it sooner than later because time's ticking and you're only getting older and all these things. So honestly, there was a lot of fear going into it of just like, gosh, if this is only our only shot at having a family, we better do it. So we went all in. We, dedicated all of our time and energy and finances, goodness knows, into that, and ended up doing 2 rounds of IVF throughout the course of 2020, which was spread out because of all of the stuff going on that year, and did end up getting pregnant on that second round. We were just thrilled at that point in time. We did it. And then just a few weeks later, ended up having a miscarriage, which, like you said, nobody tells you that it's not just about getting pregnant, but the staying pregnant. And for me, that was really my low point of just feeling devastated, feeling the grief, feeling the loss, feeling all of the anger and frustration with my body
Yeah.
and everything that was going on. And so that's when I started to really dig into my own health and what can I do to help to support myself. There's got to be more that I can do than what I'm being offered. So that's really what led me into functional nutrition, learning to support my body, all of the things. So I spent years, getting all the education and working on my own health. And many things got enormously better. I mean, my fatigue, my gut issues, so much better. My periods actually got to the point of being completely pain free, which I truly didn't think was possible based on where I had started. But I
Mm.
still wasn't getting pregnant, and that was my biggest dream. And so this year, 2025, I really focused my energy and attention more than anything on just my mental, emotional health, because that was one of those pieces I'd kind of stuffed down and
Mm.
ignored for
Mhm.
a long time, and decided it was time to start to look at that and see what was going on, and ended up being able to conceive naturally at age, I'm now 36, and was able to conceive naturally after, yeah, an 8+ year fertility journey. And now I'm expecting a baby girl in March.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But also, I'm sorry you went through all that because it's such a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's such a roller coaster. I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 40. We were told, I'm assuming you were too, don't get pregnant. It's easy to get pregnant. Like, use condoms, go on
Oh,
birth
yeah,
control, don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant.
totally.
And then, you see in the movies, people, want to get pregnant, so they have sex and they get pregnant. And then you hear all these people who, accidentally get pregnant, and you're like,
Yep.
okay, so when it's time, no problem. And then I'm like you. I got married in 2017. We stopped birth control right before the wedding. We were together for a while. I thought I was going to get pregnant right away, and we didn't, and we didn't, and we didn't.
Hmm.
What the heck?
Yep.
What the heck? And then actually, I learned after our miscarriage. After the miscarriage, my father-in-law suddenly died 3 weeks later, then my mom 3 months later. And when my mom died, the idea of being a mom died with her.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And so I waited a whole year before I put an IUD in because I was like, I gotta wait. But I was having some pain that was so crazy,
Mm.
so crazy. And that's when they're like, oh, you probably have endometriosis.
Right.
So I learned that after, where I'm like, if I would have learned that earlier, because I've been on birth control for my really heavy bad period since I was in high school.
Yep.
Not because I was sexually active. I didn't lose my virginity to university. It
Yeah.
was because of my periods.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, what if I would have been dealing with this the whole time? What if I would have been navigating it, or knowing that coffee makes me, inflamed and causes my endo to be worse? And
Yeah.
I only recently learned like a couple months ago, I was in the hospital because of pain and weird bleeding, that I have fibroids on
Yep.
top of that. And it's like, okay, and I'm actually annoyed at my womb and I'm evicting it and I'm hopefully going to get a full hysterectomy. Like, bye. I
Yeah.
don't need you. You've done nothing but betray me.
Yeah, I hear you on that.
No, but it's like, what if we just knew different? Like, what if,
Yeah.
like, we were in high school and having these periods, and someone's like, wow, like, that could be endo. You should investigate, not just put you on birth
Yes.
control and, like, hope for the best.
Absolutely. Agreed on. That's honestly my biggest reason behind wanting to get out here and share my story with people is that I feel like there is such a lack of understanding and education around that because that was my understanding. I mean, similarly, I went on birth control when I was, I think, 19 or 20 years old for the
Yeah.
first time. And, it was just my periods they weren't even nearly as bad as they were after I went off birth control, but they definitely were starting to get painful and was having some weird cycle symptoms and all that. And so I went to see a doctor and got put on birth control, but I didn't even realize it was an option to do things differently or approach my health in a different way until I was much older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, like, it's just so interesting. Like, in fact, I'm sitting here with a heating pad on because of my cramps.
Yeah.
And, it's like, because then the doctors are like, well, let's put an IUD in, or let's give you birth control or progesterone pills. And it's like, sometimes it works temporarily.
Yeah.
So and I actually went to my gynecologist. I was like, I've noticed that when I have coffee, like the pain is worse or certain foods. And she's like, well, then that's not endo. And I was like, are you gaslighting me?
Hmm.
Because then I went on all these different forums and TikTok, and the internet doesn't lie,
Sure.
right? But also knowing my body, it's like, okay, if I have
Yeah.
matcha, I feel fine. If I have coffee, I have cramps.
Yeah.
And I would love to just kind of dive into some of the things you started to do or you stopped doing with
Yeah.
your endo. Like fertility is like it's a whole other thing but when you get
Right.
your endo under control, I feel like it could be easier to get pregnant.
Oh, absolutely.
Obvious. I mean, I don't know. Like, I clearly like. Listen, I thought I'd be a wine drinking soccer mom, and I'm a sober, childless, parentless bird watcher who's become a grief and resilience expert. But,
Right.
but like, regardless, like, not everyone is on the path towards parenthood, right, or motherhood.
Yeah.
But a lot of women do suffer with endo, and someone might be listening to this whose teenage daughter is having experiences like we did.
Hmm.
And like, what is it? What are some of those things that you wish you would have known way back when? Or, yeah, like, what are some of the changes you made? Like, I know that, like, I only drink coffee, like a latte, if I feel like I desperately need it and it's a treat. And then I'm wearing a romper. So, like, it's wearing pants hurts. And either I'm wearing a romper or a
Right.
dress, and I don't have to be somewhere important so I can, like, keel over. I
Right.
drink matcha. Like, I mostly drink matcha, and matcha's
There you
expensive.
go.
But, like, so, like, tell me some of the things you do and don't do anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely making dietary changes for me was huge.
Yeah.
Because similarly, I actually remember asking my doctor about that while I think that was in between IVF cycles. Like I had had a cycle that didn't take, like the embryo just didn't stick. And so I started asking, I was also still having pain in between and all this. So I was like, hey, is there anything I can do about with my diet or anything to help? And she was like, if you think it might help, go for it. And I went home thinking, that doesn't seem quite right to me. So I did some research on my own. Turns out there's a ton of information out there about there's actually a lot of studies and research and, information when you really look for it. But really, I would say if I were to kind of zoom out big picture, the big shift that I made was really focusing on just a whole food diet. I mean, just I would say that initially it was probably a more restrictive diet than what I do now, just because I was trying to figure things out. But it was a lot of just ditching those processed foods and things that just are full of additives and preservatives and junk that we don't need in our bodies anyway, and really focusing in on just getting in the whole food sources of protein and produce and all of the things, reducing some of the foods that can be more inflammatory. I ended up for myself going gluten and dairy free actually made a big difference for me. Not to say that that's going to be the case for 100% of people, but for me, it definitely made a big difference. I wouldn't say well, right now I'm 100% sober because I'm pregnant, but in general, I would say I drink alcohol still very little anyway. It just doesn't make me feel great. It doesn't serve me well. So it's more of a few and far between. Like I can go months between having a drink and be totally happy with that because I feel better.
Yeah.
And similarly, even with caffeine, like I don't do a lot of caffeine in general. Little bit. I'll do a little tea here and there. Like I'll do green tea, stuff like that. But I've actually never been a coffee drinker anyway. That one wasn't hard for me. But
Oh. I
yeah,
love that. Okay, did you start taking any specific supplements?
yeah, and that's shifted a lot over time. Definitely some of the staple things that I recommend very often to clients and still take myself to this day would be things like omega 3s are really helpful just for reducing inflammation in your body overall. Magnesium, in particular, a form called magnesium glycinate. I personally still take that every night when I'm going to bed.
Me
Love that.
too.
Fantastic. Amazing. Um,
But I only did it because I saw that it was good for you and helps you sleep. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It's good for a lot of things. It can
Yeah.
definitely help with sleep. It can help with even muscular stuff, like if you get
Mm,
muscle cramps and things like that in general, not just for periods, but of course your uterus is a muscle as well, so
yeah.
it's very related. It can help with digestion. I mean, there's so many things. And truthfully, most of us just don't get enough magnesium in our diets because it's very hard to be honest, even if you're being very intentional about it.
Yeah.
So,
That's
yeah.
that's true. So magnesium, omega 3s.
hmm Vitamin D is definitely an important one as well. I don't always recommend supplementing with that for everybody just because it depends on a lot of things. Like, do you actually go out in the sun? Because that's still the main way to get vitamin D in your life. I know that can be, for me, I live in California, so getting out in the sun is not that hard any time of year. But for example, I work with clients who live on the East Coast and it's currently snowing and freezing outside. So I'm not going to recommend that they go sit in the sun for 20 minutes. And also just checking blood levels of vitamin D to see where it is. But low levels of vitamin D have been linked with more painful periods. So it's definitely one of those nutrients to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Um, that all, I will recommend supplementation if it's needed.
Yeah. I think that's really important. Okay, so when you went down the path of being diagnosed with endo, because I mean, I'm in Canada, so it's different and every doctor has its own
Yeah.
path. So when I learned that I might have endo, because they're like, we
Mhm.
can't definitively tell you that you have it without the surgery.
Right.
So they're first like, let's do the progesterone. And if that
Yeah.
doesn't work, we'll go into temporary menopause. And if that doesn't
hmm
work, we'll do the surgery. Anyways, now I'm at a point where I'm like, bye. Goodbye, womb.
Right.
I just wrote an article for a magazine called Get Griefy. It's called Get Griefy magazine. It doesn't come out till March, this specific article in this issue. And it's called Dark Side of the Womb.
I love that.
Yeah. But did you ever think about going down the path of surgery and going in to get it removed? Like, was that like was what was it like for you? Like, what did they position to you? Or are you just like, okay, good to know this thing, and I'm going to take it into my own hands?
Yeah. So I did actually have surgery.
Oh, you did?
I
Okay, tell
did.
us. Tell us about
Yeah.
it. My sister had surgery.
Yeah.
My sister has endo, like she gets really crazy symptoms,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
debilitating, and she had the surgery and it's made a huge difference in her
Yeah.
life.
Absolutely. Yeah. For me, it was an interesting journey on that because I first learned I had endometriosis, I think in 2019, like leading up to when I went into IVF. And at that point in time, my doctor had mentioned surgery, but she just said, well, it's probably not a good idea if you're about to go into IVF. It can potentially damage your ovaries. There were all these considerations. So I kind of just left that on the back burner. But after I decided to just take a step away from IVF and all the things, I started on the nutrition and health journey and I came a very long way. But kind of the sticking point for me is I had well, by the time I had my surgery, it was a 9 centimeter uh, endometrioma on my right ovary.
9 centimeters?
9 centimeters, which isn't small. Yeah.
How big is that? Like a golf
It's
ball?
it's probably about
Oh
that,
my
like baseball
gosh.
size, softball sized. It's pretty big.
Wow.
Yeah, so that in particular, because it was large enough. I mean, that's really because what you're saying is true. Like you technically can't get a diagnosis through ultrasound, but on my ultrasound, they were able to see this endometrioma because it was very large. And so it was like, well, we don't know 100% if it's endometriosis, but more likely than not, because, we see a lot of this kind of stuff. Like that's what it looks like. And over time, it actually got to the point, it was that particular endometrioma had grown over those first few years. And it got to the point where it was large enough that if I was lying on my back and I looked at my belly, I could actually see a small little bulge sticking out. Like it was big. And it was causing pain just chronically. I mean, just walking around hurt because it was just this giant weight inside of my abdomen.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, look, I'm doing all the things holistically. I'm doing all the things to take care of my body that I know how to do. But all of that is likely not going to make this thing just disappear. And it's causing me a lot of pain. So I actually had to go to, I think, three different doctors, three different surgeons before I found one that felt like a good fit for me, that was just in alignment with my goals and what I wanted, and the fact that I was still concerned about fertility and all of that. But I did end up having surgery in, let's see, it was August of 2022. And honestly, I'm really glad that I did because, the stubborn side of me was like, well, I'm doing all of these holistic things and I'm taking care of myself and like, that should be
Yeah.
enough. But there was also just the fact that the disease had already progressed so much by the time I even started doing that. And I just felt like I really would like to just have this removed and kind of hit restart, have a fresh start on my health. And I'm really glad that I did for myself. It ended up being the right decision for me.
Yeah.
Just to have that endometrioma removed was fantastic. And I ended up, when I went in for the surgery, then I was able to get an official diagnosis. And it was a very extensive stage 4 endometriosis. Like it was everywhere. It was a 4 hour long surgery. There was a lot that happened in there. And yeah, I do feel like it was the right decision for my body at that point in time. And it gave me a clean slate to work with so that as I continued forward doing all the things that I was doing and taking care of my body, from the inside out, I feel like that allowed me to be able to progress forward, just kind of starting over instead of trying to
Yeah.
work backwards from where I was.
And I
So,
think this is really important because you do approach like it seems like you approach what you do with holistic, a leading
yeah.
holistic approach. But the fact that you turned to surgery and came in with, also that medical support, like the traditional Western medicine, I think it's just proof that like both can be true.
Yes.
And like it doesn't need to be either or. And if you know that you have this thing, like I know some people are just so against Western medicine and surgery, but like you need to do what's right for you
Yeah.
because where would you be without of that surgery? Like stage 4 is serious. And
Yeah.
I know that they're trying to like the powers that be, are trying to advocate to classify endo in the same category as like cancer because it's not just
Sure.
in your, like it can actually grow everywhere.
Hmm.
And, I think there's things you can do to help manage it. But if surgery, if there's surgery that can help you, it's definitely worth exploring because look,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a baby in a few months.
Yeah.
And like
Absolutely.
I think that's so beautiful. And we didn't even really totally dive too deep into your journey with IVF and miscarriages. But so let's touch on that. And I know we
Yeah.
don't have like this endless amount of time. Um, so they tell us, oh my God, don't get pregnant. It's too easy to get pregnant. We try
Right.
not to get pregnant. Then we're ready to get pregnant. We try to get pregnant. We can't.
Yeah.
Then I'm like convinced I'm never gonna get pregnant. I get pregnant without trying, and then I'm like, I start telling people, they're like, "You're so early." I'm like, "But I'm pregnant now." Like,
Yeah.
you might miscarry. You might miscarry. I didn't even think of that.
Mm.
No one tells you that it could be almost just as hard to keep the baby. as it is to get pregnant.
Yep.
And I think that's something that's really important for us to talk about because, like, I've learned that it's easier for me to grow fibroids than a baby.
Hmm.
Cool. Cool. Cool story. But staying pregnant, what are you like? What's the difference, like, when you had your miscarriage in that pregnancy and where you are now in this really healthy pregnancy? What are some of those differences? What are those things that you're doing? And I know you mentioned your mental health,
Hmm.
and that is so important. The thing that no one talk, I mean, we're starting to talk about it now, but like, let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, like I said, I've worked a lot on my physical health, and I think that that was definitely a part of all of it as well. But definitely for me, working on my mindset and my emotional health was huge, and I believe was really a key part of me being able to conceive naturally in the first place
Mm,
and being able to maintain a healthy pregnancy. Because for so many years, especially just struggling with infertility and miscarriage and loss and all of this stuff that was going on, it feels very heavy. And it's very easy to slip into a place of a being mad at my body and feel like feeling like I'm fighting it all the time. And secondly, just struggling with the weight of all of the emotions that come with that. You know, the sadness, the grief, the loss, the anger, the frustration, the guilt. I mean, there's a lot of layers to that. And I feel like for a long time, there was a lot of kind of stuffing that down. And granted, there was other stuff happening in our household at the same time because it was one of those, you know, when it rains, it pours. It wasn't just the fertility stuff, but we were also having financial stuff because of COVID and doing IVF. And my husband was having some health stuff. And it was just like one thing piled on another. And so I feel like I kind of just squashed all of that down for a long time and just said,
mm.
I'm going to deal with that later. And then, of course, later comes around and it gets to the point of just like, okay, this things are boiling over. Like I need to help to support myself. And so, yeah, I feel like me starting to pull myself out of that, just working on my mindset. I've been working with a lot of tools to help me with just, you know, releasing some of these unprocessed emotions and things that are just kind of stay stuck in your body. I feel like that was really key for me in getting to where I am now.
Yeah. And it's like interesting because mental health is health.
Yes,
You know, like we don't
100%.
need to like society separates, the physical health and the mental health, but it's
Right.
all health. And you're right, you can do everything for your body, but like your mind is a huge piece to it. And I know for me, like my big goal in life is peace and a
Yes.
regulated nervous system. And I
Yeah.
didn't feel what it was like to have a safe, regulated, like safe body, regulated nervous system, relaxed for like 39 years, like last summer.
Yeah.
I'm not the one that just,
Right.
I was like, whoa, this is what I want the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Peace. And we walk around with so much, and like the world is crazy, like the news and
Oh, yeah.
like we're at that age, like things are happening. And like imagine like I was same like me, like I was trying to get pregnant, everyone around me was getting pregnant and having these babies. I'm like, what the heck? And like family stuff and financial stuff, and my husband has health stuff too, and we have a lot of similarities. And it's like, what are we doing to take care of our mental health?
Yeah.
How can we make our head a pleasant place to be?
Yes.
Right? And so I think that's really, really powerful. Um, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this story. Do you specifically work with women who struggle with endo and infertility?
I do. Yeah. I mean, like anything, that's been such a huge part of my journey. I have
Yeah.
that personal experience with that. And so, and I've spent so much time, energy, and effort working on it in my own body. So yeah, I would say that's a large portion of the clients I work with now are women with endometriosis, women who are struggling with fertility, or just some people just like weird hormone cycle related stuff in general. But yeah, that's definitely the population that I love working with Mo's just because I know just how powerful it is to have somebody in your corner who gets it. Because
Yeah.
I worked with some great providers over the years, holistic and Western medicine, all of the things, but most, if not all of them, had never experienced the journey personally. So it was almost hard sometimes to connect with them or help them to really understand what I was feeling or going through. So I feel like it's kind of my gift to give to the world of, I've been there. I get it. I can totally hold space for whatever you are feeling and going through. And there's something beautiful about that.
Yeah, turning your pain into purpose. And I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. And that's what we're all about with the Global Resilience Project and
Yeah.
the anthologies we publish and our podcasts and the work that
Mm.
we do. As we wrap up, what advice do you have for a woman who's going through something similar to you that you
Mm.
went through?
Yeah. Honestly, I think my biggest piece of advice is just to don't feel like you have to go through it alone because I felt very isolated on my journey for a long time, largely just because I didn't reach out for help. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying you have to reach out to me personally, it can be anybody, right? Maybe there's a certain practitioner you resonate, or honestly even a friend or a family member, or somebody who can help you and give you guidance and support on the journey. I feel like having a support team around you is so key, especially for that mental and emotional health, because the
Yeah.
tendency so often, I think especially as women, we just are kind of conditioned to put the weight of the world on our shoulders and just hold on to it all and present to the world that everything is fine and beautiful and perfect in our lives, even when behind the scenes we're secretly crying in a closet every morning. That was my story. So don't be afraid to ask for help, to reach out, to connect with other people. Whether it's a practitioner or friends or family or even support groups or even forums on the internet, whatever
Right.
resonates with you, but find that support system to help you to feel that you're not alone and you have people on your journey.
That's beautiful advice. And it's really nice to lean on people who aren't in your inner circle and family because it's coming from a different lens, especially when they're trained in that space. And so thank you so much for being here today and for the work that you're doing. I know how important it is, and I am so honored that you took the time to join us today.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you to everyone who tuned in to another episode of Resilient AF. Alyssa's show links are in the show notes. I was gonna say your show notes are in the links, but that doesn't make sense. Your links are in the show notes. Dive into her world, get to know her. You do not have to navigate this alone, your challenges alone, anything you're going through. You are not alone. You will get through it. You have us to hold your hand and be that light in the darkness, that light at the end of the tunnel. And just remember, friends, you are resilient AF. That's a wrap for another episode of Resilient AF with Blair and Alana. And thank you for listening. Are you feeling inspired to bounce forward?
Let's connect at theglobalresilienceproject.com, where you can read many stories of resilience, buy our books, shop our clothing line, learn more about how to strengthen your resilience muscle, be empowered, and more.
Remember, friends, you are resilient AF.